Hello, we are very glad to have this opportunity at the EGG 2020 to introduce EcoWork, a concept for co-working spaces for the informal e-waste dismantling sector. Presenting our research and some key learnings from our ongoing pilot project in India are Michael Gasser, Dea Werley, and myself, Dipali Ketriwal. I'll start by presenting the project concept, then Dea will explain the approach, and Michael will talk about the results and insights we have gained so far. This research also involves Ibrahim Mansouri from Sophius India and Sandhya and her team from Curry Stone Design Collaborative, a partner organization. So to set the context a bit, India is one of the largest generators of e-waste in the world. The latest numbers published in the Global E-Waste Monitor put that figure at about 3 million tons annually. And the very large majority of this, close to 90% by most reports, is handled, is collected, is dismantled by the informal sector, as we saw in the picture before. And it's very well documented that the treatment and processing of e-waste in these small workshops by the informal sector, as we can see here, is not exactly the best way to do. It's hazardous to human health and the environment, yet it is contributing to a circular economy while also providing a livelihood for many. The e-waste rules in India, which have been in place since 2011 and with amendments and revisions now also amended in 2018, they have been pushing for the formalization of e-waste management in India. However, the requirements for formalization are high and inaccessible to these informal sector micro-entrepreneurs. So what is the informal sector? Actually, it's more of a collective term for very small entrepreneurial businesses. So rather than what, I think it's more important to ask who is the informal sector made of? Well, the typical informal dismantler, here our friend from the cover slide, for example, is a micro-entrepreneur possibly employing a few daily wage laborers and dismantling most e-waste that he gets. Perhaps he has a specialization, perhaps not, but like everyone else, he has aspirations for his business to grow and his family to do well, but often not the means or the knowledge how to improve his situation. Besides, he is also insecure about his future because the threat of closure of his business looms due to enforcement actions and market dynamics. Our concept of EcoWork, to be a co-working space for these micro-entrepreneurs, is really to provide them with the shared infrastructure and equipment and business support to grow. It is designed as a self-sustaining business model where micro-entrepreneurs can rent the space and equipment flexibly, on demand, without the need to lock in their capital or make large investments upfront. Very, very central to the idea of EcoWork is to create a space that provides dignity, prosperity, safety, and security to this community, while at the same time creating trusted channels for material flows between the informal and formal sector. So, first and foremost, the EcoWork space would provide a legal work environment and allow micro-entrepreneurs to gradually familiarize with them with formal work practices in a more or less risk-free setup. Then, it would also provide them with the access to proper machines, tools, and equipment that they currently do not have, know about, or would have the capacity to invest in. And finally, EcoWork would act like an incubator for these micro-entrepreneurs and support them with the formalization of their business to improve productivity and to be able to scale. It would be a platform to interact with the rest of the e-waste value chain, such as PROs and recyclers, and become a community hub as such that enables access to services such as banking, access to finance, medical checkups, insurance, etc., which currently a lot of the sector doesn't access. But Is there a demand for such a space? We've spent a fair bit of time asking this question, and we'll go into more details later. But very quickly, what our research shows is that eco work can be an attractive option for these micro entrepreneurs for several reasons. For one, it helps them optimize their finances and pay for only what they use. Secondly, it provides a low risk approach to adopting modern business practices and transition from the informal to the formal sector, which in turn can open new market opportunities. And finally, it would help reduce their risk of business closure. The need to formalize and relocate has, in fact, been accentuated by the COVID lockdowns, which disproportionately affected the informal sector dismantlers located in dense residential areas in city limits, which were closed, while industrial areas and units in industrial areas were allowed to function. So I'd like to come to my last slide here and just really highlight the fact that we really strongly believe that the informal sector plays a very important role. And it is important to work as a catalyst for them rather than disrupt them. We see eco work really developing as a self sustaining social enterprise that plays this role, that is able to function as a full fledged business through the services it provides, such as flexible workspaces, flexible storage capacity, and access to machines and services. And our aim through this pilot is really to test these ideas and eventually create templates and share the learnings for wider replication. Now, I'd like to hand over to Dea, who will take us through our activities so far and the expected impact and outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you, Dipali. The impact we want to generate, and this is why we work on ecowork, are the manifold benefits ecowork creates. Among others, ecowork promotes the safe and efficient resource recovery and the closure of the material chain, and through this contributes to SDG 12. Further, through safe work practices, improved work life, and healthier neighborhoods, ecowork supports SDG 3 on good health and well-being, and as well SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities, through reduced pollution and the provision of business opportunities. Specifically, we expect following outcomes. On the resource side, we aim to increase the amount of newly further processed material and ensure safe disposal of hazardous wastes. Socially, ecowork provides dignity and respect to the work of dismantlers and through the formal work environment prevents the risk of business closure and hence secures jobs. Furthermore, it is an inclusive solution for the transformation of informal to formal e-waste management. On the environmental side, avoidance in greenhouse gases and pollution control are two important outcomes of ecowork. So what is the current status of the project? The project has started in 2019. In a preparation phase, highlighted in green here, the business model is elaborated using a participatory design approach and followed then by the physical setup of a pilot eco-workspace starting in 2020 or now due to COVID in 2021. A successful evaluation of the concept will then lead to the preparation of a template for multiplication and the promotion of the solution. Let us now have a more detailed look into the participatory design approach and the results we have gained from it so far. First of all, why do we apply a participatory design approach? We believe that an ecowork facility, to be successful as a business, as well as in terms of impact, it needs not only to provide good services, but also a better alternative to the current situation. For this, we need to understand the current situation, the network and community of the informal sector, and also let them be part in the design and development of the project. In this participatory design process, three main elements are important. First of all, it is crucial to build up a strong bond of trust to the community. Secondly, this will then help to understand the sector, the challenges and worries the dismantlers face, and what drives and motivates them. Thirdly, through participatory design activities, the community can take part in the development and design of the eco-workspace and make it a solution not just for them, but from them. So how do you build trust? Repeated and frequent interactions are very important. Consider coming back to them with some results. Show them what you did with the information you got from them. Recognize them as equal stakeholders. They might have a different job and a different life than you do, or vice versa, but we are all the same. Work together with the community, for example, through community representatives, so you can reach a wider community and give them some responsibility, and also strengthen through it the connection to the project. To understand the sector, fact and number-driven questions form only part of questions. Rather than only finding out how much rent they pay and salary they get, it is important to wonder about their needs and aspirations so you can understand them. This could include questions like, what part of work do you enjoy? What is the first thing you think of when you wake up in the morning? When are you happy? What is a recent success or achievement you are proud of? The dismantlers have rarely considered such questions given their environment. The answers helped us to identify which key elements need to be preserved and what aspirations eco-work can help to fulfill. Once we felt that there was sufficient interest for further interaction, we organized a design workshop. We rented an empty industrial space for a day that could be a potential location of the EcoWork facility. In the workshop, we encouraged the participants to reimagine their place of work. With tapes and chalk, the 15 micro-entrepreneurs present at the workshop started visualizing their future of work in groups. Now I hand over to Mike, who will present you some results and insights we have gained so far from this participatory design approach.
Thank you, Nea. In the discussions and interactions we've had with the informal micro-entrepreneurs, we could identify three general themes that relate to eco-work. Regarding needs and aspirations, the micro-entrepreneurs put a high priority on providing for their family. This includes being able to cover school expenses and owning their own shop. Another element is the deep connection with the community. Community relations seem to be more important than increasing profits. Informality also introduces challenges into the daily life and long-term outlook of the micro-entrepreneurs. The uncertainty related to informality is a prevalent source of stress. For example, it threatens business continuity and requires night work to hide certain activities from officials. Also, a support network that helps the micro-entrepreneurs leave informality is missing. A weak rule of law makes it difficult for micro-entrepreneurs to see benefits of formalization. It is experienced, for example, as loopholes, favoritism by officials, and the expectation of bribery. With respect to the design of the facility itself, the micro-entrepreneurs provided us with specific needs and expectations. Secure storage spaces and a weighing bridge have a very high importance to them. These additions would ensure the safe storage of valuable fractions and decrease the logistic costs of incoming and outgoing fractions. Meeting and office spaces would help to conduct business. Safety installations would ensure the protection of the entrepreneurs and their laborers. Washrooms and resting rooms would provide important quality of life improvements and provide access to infrastructure that is not available in the community itself. Based on these insights, we have identified three key challenges that we need to address in order to make eco-work a reality. The first challenge is the expectation of owning their own place versus the eco-work rental model. We need to position eco-work as an intermediate step in becoming a fully independent dismantling company and focus our work on micro-entrepreneurs that are currently renting their space. The second and third challenge relate to the relocation. Setting up eco-work in an industrial area is necessary to obtain the required permits. However, it also disrupts the existing network and may lead to our customers being cut off from the community. We need to ensure that traders supplying our future customers with materials are supportive of eco-work despite not being customers themselves. The relocation also affects the logistics of the micro-entrepreneurs. It locks them out of benefits such as short distances and logistics providers familiar with the industry. We need to support our potential customers to adapt their transport networks and ensure that eco-work generates its own benefits of scale in order to be competitive. Before I conclude the talk, let me give you a brief overview of the impacts that COVID-19 had on the sector and the project. Due to the lockdowns instituted in Indian cities, the e-waste markets and recycling activities had come to a complete standstill. This very quickly impacted the communities we work with, as they do not have sufficient cash reserves to weather such an unforeseen development. On our end, we've had to adapt the way we interact with the sector. We very quickly moved our interactions to video conferences, and it has been very nice to see how the video calls were taken up by the community. Despite these negative impacts, COVID-19 also caused two interesting shifts in perception that may be valuable in the long term. The awareness on health issues and the diffusion of protective equipment has certainly improved. Also, relocation to an industrial area is certainly less of an issue, as if you would have a facility in an industrial area, you might have been able to keep operating. With a reopening of the Indian economy, we continue with our goal to build the first eco-work facility in Delhi, India. The participatory design approach has helped us greatly to refine the concept. Our next steps include returning to physical meetings, developing and testing demo spaces and services so that we can refine our business model, support the micro-entrepreneurs in forming a formal trade organization so that it is easier to interact with the community as a whole, and to acquire more funding to be able to build the facility. We would like to thank our supporters that have made this journey possible. This includes EMPA and Sophie's, the two organizations that are hosting the EcoWork team members, the Currystone Design Collaborative that has greatly helped us in implementing the participatory design approach, Bridge, Repic, and a variety of other organizations and prices that have funded and continue to fund our work. As our interaction with you as the viewer of this presentation is somewhat limited, we'd also like to give you a quick peek at the diverse team of EcoWork. We look forward to your questions and remarks. Together, we can build a circular economy that includes informal micro-entrepreneurs. Thank you very much.